you know, nobody wants to see their mother, their father, their grandmother, their grandfather, their brother, sister, whoever it is that they love and cherish in that bed, you know, being neglected, right? You know, it's an interesting thing as a healthcare professional, you work with a lot of different patients, you know, in your life, in your career. And some of them, they kind of stick with you. You know, the experiences do. Um, and so because of that, you know, some of these problems, you're just very, very aware of them. Um, I remember a particular patient, uh, and she was one that got to me a little bit. Her name was Rosemary. She's an interesting lady. She was when I started working with her, I was probably about 32 at the time, and she was in her 30s. She was had been a school teacher, mother of two, you know, developed MS, and it was a pretty severe form of MS. And when I started working with her, it was to, you know, deal with the swallowing issues that developed. She pretty much couldn't move. She was bedridden. She couldn't use her call light. She was very physically debilitated. That disease affects your peripheral nervous system, and you know it gradually paralyzes people. Well, in her case, she could only whisper. Her voice, you know, her vocal cords, her ability to vocalize, so she couldn't really say what she wanted or needed loudly, and she couldn't use her call light. So when I would come to see her, I would have to bend over, like, and let her whisper in my ear. And it stuck with me because there were two things she whispered to me a lot when I would first come in to see her. And one of them was she would whisper, ice water, ice water. And she was just so thirsty. And, you know, I would always, of course, act on that and get the staff in there, and we'd get her in the right position and get her ice water. But I knew, you know, she just wasn't getting the fluids that she needed. She couldn't ask. She couldn't project her voice. She couldn't use her call light. She was just dependent, laying there waiting for somebody to come so she could whisper to them. The other thing she would whisper to me, though, and that bothered me at the time, was she would whisper, I'm soiled, you know, I'm dirty. And, you know, so I knew what she meant, that, you know, she was incontinent, she was wearing a brief. So, you know, we'd get the staff in there and we'd make sure she got cleaned up. But you see that and you know that here's this person kind of trapped inside a body that won't move, who's very cognitively aware of what's going on, what she feels, what she thinks. She can't ask. So, you know, technology, you know, later as we started working on the technology, it's not just her, many, many, many people. Dehydration, incontinence care are huge issues. So using technology, we can address those issues. We know it works. And we know when those particular needs occur with some of the Biolink technology that we've got in place right now. You know, when we developed the brief system as an example, of course, first and foremost is if somebody's soiled, you know, to notify the staff. So it uses Bluetooth to Wi-Fi, talks to a smartphone that the nurse aides are carrying, and lets them know immediately when that person has, you know, become incontinent and they're soiled. Then it starts the clock counting, and we know exactly how long it takes them to get there and to take care of that resident.
On average, how long would somebody sit in their feces or urine?
Well, when we would pre-test, it's over 6 hours. But, and then after we put the system in, the average drops down to maybe an hour. But in truth, if I'm just, am I being, giving you an honest answer here, I am sure there are many nursing homes out there where we have people laying in their own feces, their own urine for hours and hours and hours and hours, maybe 24 hours or more even in some places. That's just pure neglect. Neglect is common, way, way, way too common. And neglect reaches the level of abuse, okay? That should never, ever be. And that we are going to fix it. We're going to make that so that the standard and the expectation should be so much higher than what it is. We're going to fix these problems. We're already doing it. And the 4 facilities we're in, we've made a huge impact. So, and I think that as we go into the future, this innovation is going to continue to evolve, and we're going to do a much, much, much better job as a country in taking care of these people we love, that we care about, that are suffering. I mean, it's real human suffering. Bed sores hurt. They're painful. Dying from dehydration, I don't know what that would be like, but it's got to be horrible, or experiencing that on a daily basis. The side effects and repercussions of that are just enormous. And all the other things we can do. Waiting for your call light to be answered. If you think about it, falls occur, and I'm estimating this, but in my opinion, just based on my experience, I would say maybe half the falls that occur in a nursing home go from unanswered call lights. If somebody's continent and they need to go to the bathroom, right, quickly, that person needs that call light answered, because they could be a recent fractured hip. They could be somebody who's in that bed who's not supposed to walk alone. They need standby assistance and supervision. Those call lights need to get answered, and if they don't, patients are faced with a choice. I can lay here and I can pee on myself, or I can get up and try to walk. And if they get up and try to walk, you got a real high risk for a fall. Okay, and that's putting all other issues aside. What about the dignity of the people? We built a reward system in for the staff. We want them to work smarter, faster, harder. We print out a report every day for the facility so they can see which residents were soiled, what time, exactly when the staff responded, how long it took them to get there, and ultimately we convert that in the software to an individualized, employee-specific reward system. So whoever responds to that alert and gets there, they're the ones who are going to get the rewards points. And that's money. You look, when you're talking about people who make $15, $18, $20 an hour, to get a gift card every 2 weeks that gives them extra money, extra spending power, they're buying groceries. They're buying gasoline for their car. So all of a sudden that resident and their needs become something they get rewarded for. And that dynamic is very, very powerful. It's just not one you would necessarily anticipate, but it's there, it's real, and it works.
So much is in the news today about mental health. How do you think this is impacted, or do you know how it's impacted mental health?
I can only tell you just from the comments and the feedback you get from the people, right? Because that's how you kind of get your opinions. You get comments from them that that there's just this different attitude. It shifts the whole paradigm, right? in a sense, because now, they get a chance to use technology. They get a chance to interact with that patient on a different level. They're not following some protocol. And keep in mind, the protocol for incontinence care in a lot of these nursing homes is you go check somebody every 2 hours, right? Here are some of the kinds of things that happen. If I go check somebody every 2 hours and I'm finding half of them or three-fourths of them are still dry, I just wasted a lot of time, didn't I? And not only that, I disturbed this person unnecessarily, especially in the middle of the night when they're sleeping, and they're not even soiled. So, the mental health of the residents, the staff, the efficiency of their time, it's better spent because they're only responding to needs. They're not trying to go discover needs, so to speak. They're actually being told the need exists, so they get there. Same thing with the fluids. When they get an alert that says this resident hasn't urinated in 6 hours, they know what that means. And they know, okay, we need to get in there and give this person fluids. Or, the same system will tell you, for instance, if a resident's standing and they're a fall risk, there's an accelerometer in that device that will tell them, hey, you got a resident who's standing up who's not supposed to be, you got to get there. So all of those things, the staff, at first, it's a shock. I mean, it requires them some adjustment, but, once they realize, hey, this really works, it makes me more efficient, I'm not, disturbing people for no reason. By the way, there's a dignity aspect to this too. If you're an adult, you don't want somebody coming in the room and peeking down your brief unnecessarily just to see if you're soiled or feeling of it or doing whatever people do to check it. You don't have to do that. When you get there, there's a need. So, but I would say from a mental health standpoint, I just think the nurse aides, they're more invigorated to do the work. They feel more valued, and that they're getting rewarded for moving faster, and getting there and addressing the needs. It's really, really pretty cool to watch. We also have wrist wearable devices that alert on blood oxygen levels or heart rate or possible fevers. I don't even want to guess how long somebody might in some nursing homes go with a fever and an infection before anybody notices. So detecting those kinds of things quickly is life-saving. It prevents a hospitalization, maybe a death, because you're getting there quickly. Time is very important with healthcare, timing and how fast you respond to needs. The system is set up so we can individualize it. Maybe for you, we want to alert on a heart rate of 105 or 110 for tachycardia, or maybe 50 for bradycardia, or maybe SpO2 at 88%. We can adjust all that individually to what your body's like, to your needs. The devices wake up and look at you every 10 minutes or so. The wrist wearable device wakes up every 30 minutes and checks your vitals and checks, your oxygen level, checks your heart rate, checks your body temperature. So it's continuous monitoring, and it only alerts if there's a need. Biolink hasn't asked anybody to pay for anything. Not one nursing home has paid for the service, not one resident or resident family, okay? This is something that needs to happen. But that's okay, because we need to build this, we need to make this happen for these people. We have now reached an evolution point where we can scale this up. We can get into a lot more buildings.
So it is scalable. It's just a matter of time, and or if somebody were to want to get their family member on it, Do they have to move them to a current Biolink facility?
Well, yeah,
Or,
we're only,
or can you activate that facility that they're in?
we could activate any facility. So yes, we can do that. It would be nice if, we could, get some nonprofit help, money to help expand till we reach this critical mass where this just becomes a part of what the market demands, what society demands really, and what eventually maybe government demands. But this has to happen. This has to happen, and it will. It will happen. But the software itself was created in Ohio, okay? And that software was conceptually driven by all my experiences in these nursing homes and what we needed to do with that software in order to make it work. And it literally, as we go into the future, as we develop more and more technology around this subject matter, it's built so that it can communicate with that technology. So if somebody comes along in 6 months or a year with some new hardware that can do some amazing things to help us, detect a need for a disabled or elderly person or change in their medical condition that needs to be noticed right away, it can communicate with the software. Bluetooth to Wi-Fi, we can talk, we can produce reports, we can send out alerts to staff who are carrying the phones. And so, yeah, it's going to be, it's like any kind of technology, it's going to evolve as we go into the future, right? If you think about it, we all use flip phones at one time, right? And now we have these phones that do all these amazing things. Well, we're going to do the same thing with the elderly and the disabled. We're going to continue to evolve and develop and produce these things which speak for them, which protect them, which care for them. There's only one wrist wearable device that actually measured blood oxygen levels below 90% that was FDA cleared. Not registered, but FDA cleared as an accurate device with what's called a 510K. And we have modified that thing several times now to make it better and better and better. And at this point, the latest one has an infrared device for detecting fevers. It will measure at the ulnar aspect of the wrist blood oxygen level. It measures pulse, and it alerts when those thresholds are either exceeded or the measures drop below those thresholds.
Does this technology work at home? If someone is not in a facility, is a family member who's maybe caring for their loved one at home able to get the technology?
We can actually set this up for cellular communication in your house. So depending on, and this is where the technology has to go, we will be able to communicate with up to, I think we've got up to like 6 cell phones with an alert. If you have a whole family that wants alerted, sure, we can alert everybody. It's a cell signal, right? It's a text. So we can do that with some of the same alerting. Just imagine it's just like setting your house up like you would a nursing home, right? It's really no different. You go Bluetooth to Wi-Fi.
So it's almost like it's like this alert response technology system.
It's exactly what it is. It's monitoring, and it's alerting, and it's measuring the time it takes people to get there. It's accountability that has never existed in a nursing home. The dignity part of it's huge. Okay, so let's go back for a minute. You asked me what was the impetus for this, for developing and going down this whole road. After being a speech pathologist for some time, I decided I can run these buildings better. I can manage this care better than the people I'm seeing do it, right? So I decided, okay, I'm going to become a nursing home administrator, and I'm going to do this. I'm going to run these buildings. And, in order to do that, you have to go through certain processes to get your license. One of the things you have to do is an internship, right? For a year, where you work in a nursing home full time, you do all these different functions and so on and so forth. One of the things I had to do during the internship, which was good for me because I learned a lot from doing it, was admissions. Now, admissions is the first point of contact for a family member. If they're going to bring their mother or their father into a nursing home, generally speaking, the first thing they do is they come and they tour a building and they meet with you because you're the admissions coordinator. And I was doing that job for a period of months and months. That was when I really, really got to interact with the sons and the daughters and the siblings and the people who were admitting and trusting that this facility was going to care for this person they loved, right? So, that experience for me, I could see in their eyes and hear in their voices the worry, the anxiety, sometimes the guilt of having to make this decision, and they would look to me for reassurance, really, that they could trust us. And you really start to tap into that emotional experience that families go through when you do admissions. And I got that. I got that on a different level than I ever did, as a speech pathologist, because I got to interact with these people. And trust me, I was always the first person he came back to if there was a care issue. So I would hear it that way as well. And there were always some kind of care issues going on, right? But that was a really valuable experience for me, because family members, they love these people and they care a lot about them. And when you fail, it's an emotional experience for them, right? So that was valuable for me, and that helped me also. You asked me, okay, so how did the technology, how did some of the ideas that went into the software and these various hardware pieces that are being developed to just put this umbrella, this ecosystem, this communication system over a nursing home, where that system speaks for the resident, right? Hey, I'm soiled. Hey, I haven't urinated in 6 hours or 4 hours or 8 hours or whatever we set it at. Hey, I've got tachycardia, or my oxygen level just dropped, or my call light is on, right? It's talking for them. All of those things, all of that hardware and the things we develop as we go into the future, and there will be more, comes from that experience. It comes from a collection of experiences. It really is like a whole history of interacting with residents and families and seeing where failures occur. And honestly, it's sometimes, I managed at one point, I had 34 nursing homes. And I was in those facilities touring, walking the floors, looking at the residents, talking to the staff and whatever family members were around. You just learn. You know the weak spots. You know where staff's going to fail. You know where protocols are inadequate. So a lot of thought and a lot of experience over a period of years really went into, what do we need to do here? How is it that we live in a country and a society that can put a rover on Mars that lasts for years and tells us all these things about that planet, but yet we can't tell somebody when a person needs fluids or they're soiled, or we can't communicate and tell ourselves when human beings need care. It just is totally unacceptable to me. And what that tells me really is that we just haven't maybe valued our seniors and our disabled people as much as we should have as a country, as a society, as a culture. And technology has overlooked them. It's failed them so badly. And I would say a big technology in the United States has failed our elderly and our disabled people. Big corporate America has failed them for whatever reasons you want to surmise. It has failed them. So we're going to fix that problem, okay? We have started to fix it. We can fix it, and we will. Now we have to scale up. Now we have to take it to the next level, and we have to, continue to develop technology which really does monitor and communicate for these people. I mean, it's literally their voice. It's saying, I need something. I'm in here and I'm in this bed and I need you. I need you to come and take care of something. I need you to come and address, some need that exists. We're holding people accountable for all of it on a regular basis with daily reports. Here's how well your facility did yesterday. Every 24 hours, the software will talk to the management of that building and tell them, here's how your staff performed. Here's what was the average response time for an incontinent episode. Here's how fast they got there for an alert on hydration, or how fast they got there when we sent out a temperature alert. Literally, the accountability and that aspect of it helps people manage a facility better and hold their staff accountable. But more importantly, it just talks to everybody, right? And prioritizes where they're at and what they're doing with some of these issues. And it makes a big difference, a huge, huge, huge difference. It's what we have to do.
How would this technology have affected Rosemary?
That's a good question. Well, it would have known Rosemary was dehydrated, for sure. It would have known she was incontinent and laying there with all of her mental facilities and capacities in place, knowing she was soiled, and not able to tell anybody. It would have spoken for her. Absolutely, it would have. It would have taken better care of her. Yeah, it would have. I wish we would have had it, but we didn't, but we do now. And now what we have to do is nurture this and make it grow, make it become bigger, make it become the commonplace standard of care for these people who really need it.